All right, hey, Ronin man here. Hey, I don't have my microphone today. I'm out by the pool, but I somehow forgot to take my mic, so I'm just recording this on my computer. So I went to motorcycles and Ronin man. Right, it's the topic today. I went to a motorcycle show last night, and there was like thousands and thousands and thousands of unique motorcycles, and just every single type you could imagine and everything from like Japanese gangster bikes to like bikes covered in like what do you call it? Just like stickers with like maids and girls like dressed up in maid outfits and cosplay, and then super fast like racing bikes, like serious racing bikes. Um, every kind of like it was like thousands of types. I really couldn't believe it. Actually, I'd never seen so many bikes in one place. Different types of bikes. It was riders had all come together. Bangkok Motorcycle Festival. Either way, it was awesome. I love motorcycles, and I thought it really brought something to my mind because there were each section of the show had different kinds of guys hanging out naturally, right? Like one section was all guys dressed in Harley outfits. I mean, they literally looked like they were. It was all Thai guys, but they were all. It looked like they were, really looked like they were straight out of the U.S. Except they were all skinny. That was one big difference. But they were all sitting there in the same outfits, the exact same uniform that they wear in the States. The Harley shirts, the leather pants, and the whole gear that everybody wears, right? And the only thing I would say about them, I like these guys because you could tell they were really enjoying it, like being rebels. In Thailand, like to dress like that is like, it's completely abnormal. So, they're doing something that's unique, and probably the very first bikers in the States were pretty cool. They were doing something unique. They were creating a culture. They're creating a fashion, right? And I'm always for that. I think when you're in that mode of creating stuff, I always like to be part of any group that's like right in that mode where they're creating new things. But after that, it becomes I'm not really interested in it because it's just basically copying whatever was created before or trying to take it to some stupid extreme, right? It never makes any sense. So I was watching those guys and I was thinking, okay, so by each type of bike, so whether you buy the racing bikes, you had a certain outfit people were wearing, and then as you got to the scooters, they had like some really really intense scooters, uh, all kinds, they're really tricked out, like super tricked out scooters. Some of them were very fast actually, and as we're looking at these things, they had a V8 in one of them. They had a V8 in one scooter. It was, I'm sure that thing was fast, and sticking out of the side of the thing. And I didn't, unfortunately, I never heard him run the engine. They were all working bikes, like guys were driving away with them. They brought them to the show and they drove away. But the V8, unfortunately, I didn't see that one drive away. I saw it sitting there. But either way, so okay, so guys and bikes, right? So freedom and guys and bikes. It's a great topic because if you look at any like movie on freedom, or even guys when they retire, they have to get they really feel like it's time. I don't have to go to work anymore. I'm gonna be free, right? I'm gonna get myself a Harley. There's a great commercial that had the guy's blind. I don't know if you've seen it. It's pretty popular on the internet. He's blind and his wife takes him to the Harley place and he picks a Harley, and then she puts in the end they show him riding down the road, and then he's blind, right? And then you see that he's on a trailer. His wife's pulling him, right? Which is pretty cool. Pretty cool ad, right? So, um, but the thing is like the idea that because I'm a bike rider, right? Like I race bikes. I did a lot of street racing in Japan. Very serious street racing. You know, yeah, serious shit. I was really into racing, and I was fast. So I really, really got off on it. I got more and more intense as I got better and better, faster and faster. I took more and more risks, and I pushed the bike that I had, to the absolute limit. And it was a great experience for me. But eventually, I had to stop, and I had to actually. One of my friends recommended I see a psychiatrist actually because I was like pushing. I was really putting my life on the line every night for no reason. And as much as I enjoyed it, I really thought my friend really cared about me, and I thought, you know what, this is weird because I don't like to go to, I'm not into going to, I've never been to a psychiatrist before in my life. Never thought I would ever go. But I actually went one time, and I paid him whatever it was, and I went to see him, and I quit racing that day. I never raced again. And that's been good for me because I know that I already used up my luck. You know what I mean? I used up so many times I almost died. I'm just so close. Just oh man, just right there where you just one. Yeah, you can't even believe you didn't hit whatever it was or crash or whatever, get run over, and so it's great, but I'm glad I had that experience, right? But the thing is that guys and bikes, I think it's a really confused topic because, like I was saying before, like every guy thinks that he's got to get a bike to be free, and I always kind of hate these guys. To me, it reminds me of like it's like weekend warriors. They just like they don't even know what they're doing, like why they're doing anything they're doing. I'm going to tell you what is a motorcycle to me. A motorcycle is not the sound of a motorcycle. Okay, it could be electric for all I care, right? I don't care about that. This kind of like nostalgia for sounds is just fucking stupid. Okay, the Ronin man is into like function. Right? Guys are into function, right? And that's why a hunting knife is so cool. It's got everything on it. It's very easy to grip. It's very strong. You can use it to open things, open cans. That kind of thing I love. I love functional things. I like a rocket because a rocket goes into space. People say, "Oh, a rocket's powerful." It's not. It's just very lightweight. It's just barely strong enough to do what it needs to do. Right? The physics are just there. Right? It's to get what you need to get done. So to me, there's like two kinds of motorcycles. Right? Basically, there's only two, and this is coming from a real bike guy. Like I have ridden every kind of bike, and I've owned so many bikes, and I've thrashed the shit out of these bikes, driven them into the fucking ground. And I can tell you what I think about bikes, and I hope it helps you if you ever think about getting a bike, because just understanding the world, I think, is a great thing. Like you can't do everything in life, right? But you can see from somebody else, who you think has good judgment, and you can learn like what is life, right? What is hunting? What is traveling? What are women? What is swimming? Whatever it is, whatever the topic is, right? So for me, bikes are very simple. There's two types of bikes. There's bikes that are like a fish, okay? A fish, right? If you look at a fish, there's nothing extra on that fucking fish. That fish is designed for one thing, and that's to like, by evolution, it's just like maximum flexibility, maximum muscle, maximum power for the weight, so that it can move through the ocean, right? Move through the lake, and get away from things and eat things, right? And it's got the teeth on the front, and it's just like the teeth aren't too big, they're not so big that he can't get things in his mouth. It's just evolved, so it's just right. Well, its teeth are just big enough that it grabs it. They're just strong enough. It can't get away, whatever it's trying to eat. And the skin is just strong enough for most things that it's going to hit it or try to bite it. And not too strong because then it's going to be too heavy, right? And then it's not functional, right? I'll tell you one thing I'll tell you a fish story was pretty funny, actually. It's totally unrelated, but I was ordering meat. I was ordering a steak or something in Japan. And this Japanese guy said, "Oh, I'll have fish." And I said, "Okay." And then he said, "I always eat fish instead of meat." I said, "Yeah, okay." And he said, "Because I want to look like a fish." Because he said, "If you eat fish, you look like a fish, and if you eat a cow, you look like a cow." And it was really kind of stunned me, because I kind of thought about it. I thought, damn, like there's a lot of truth to that, I mean, metaphors are never exactly perfect, but there's a lot of truth to that. Fish is goddamn good for you. You know what I mean? You get strong and healthy, and the oil is very good for you in a fish, right? Whereas a cow, not that it's bad for you. I don't think so. I think steak is fine, But definitely compared to fish and the amount of nutrients in a fish, definitely the fish beats the cow every time. As far as health and as far as giving your body what it needs. Like the ingredients it needs, right? And you can just there's islanders who just basically eat fish. They don't even eat vegetables, and they're fine. Although they do eat the bones because they get the calcium from the bones. So those islanders. So the fish they have a lot in them, right? If you eat the heads of the fish. Oh, actually, here's another unrelated fish story. They did a really interesting study, actually. People don't like to eat the guts of the fish, right? They always throw the guts away, eat the meat, right? Well, they did it. Somebody did some crazy guy must have done some research on people who were stranded at sea, and what they did, and what he found was really interesting. They would fish. Everybody would fish. They'd somehow get fish right out of the ocean, and then they would eat them, and that's how they survived, right? And what they found was really interesting was when they would take the fish in the beginning of the thing, when they were just like the first day, they would eat the meat and they'd throw the guts away. and then they would eat the meat and throw the guts away. But as it went longer and longer, they started to eat the guts a little bit, and then the guts more and more. And finally, after like let's see, over 30 days, they started eating only the guts and throwing the meat away. And what they found was is that the body, and they said that the guts tasted like the most delicious thing they could ever eat. Like it was like, when you eat chocolate cake or chocolate, it's just like the best chocolate you've ever had. It just tastes so delicious. Just some kind of truffle raw chocolate, just whatever the dripping out of your mouth. You're just like, oh, this is so good, right? And that's how they taste. That's how guts tasted to them, because the guts, and they figured out why, is because the guts have all the ingredients human life needs, and they're missing in the meat. So interesting, right? I don't eat that many guts, but now after reading that story, I started to eat a little bit of the guts. I figured, hey, these things are good for you. They're not like poison or something, right? Either way, so back to the thing is that's what a fish is. It's a minimal thing to do. It's everything is a balance, right? So if you put something extra on the fish, like you put like I say a chrome bumper on the fish, right? Or you put like some kind of leather on the side of the fish, or a pipe sticking out of the fish, he's not going to be as fast as he would be, right? And the fish will be inefficient, right? Now maybe if he has like a metal bumper around him, if another fish bumps into him, he's going to be not having any trouble. But the thing is you can see there's a real trade-off for that, right? Because then another fish comes and eats him real easy, right? Because he's heavy and he can't move, and also he can't eat, so he's going to be hungry, right? So the trade-offs are enormous for having extra weight on a living animal. And motorcycles are exactly the same way. Because a motorcycle, what it is, it's a vehicle designed to move forward, grip the ground, and turn, right? And stop. That's basically what that does, right? It grips the ground when you turn, it grips the ground when you're going straight, when you stop, and then when you turn, and it goes forward. And most importantly, the bike can stop very quickly. So no matter how well designed a bike is, if there's extra weight on the bike, it doesn't function properly. So this is just a quick thing on bikes, but if you have a pound of weight down on the ground, now near the bottom of the bike, it's not really that much of a problem if the weight's on the bottom. But if the weight's up a few inches, or even up a foot, or 2 feet, like up where the tank is, every pound that you have up higher, it totally screws up the bike. The bike is like way less efficient. The best kind of bike would be like just a straight pipe with an engine on it, and you laying on top of the engine. Right? That would be obviously not comfortable, but that bike would be so fast, and it would brake insanely fast, and it would have insane properties, right? Because every time you put the weight up higher, or especially your body up higher, it screws the whole thing. It screws the bike up, right? And the physics of the bike are just screwed, right? So bikes are huge compromises as it is, because you got a human being on there, you got gasoline on there, you got a helmet, you got the windshield, all the kinds of crap on there. That obviously some of this stuff is useful. So that's the thing, is you're trying to get like a Swiss Army knife. It's got everything, but it's not too much stuff and not too heavy. And it's just right that you have what you need when you need it, right? So the bike, a well-designed bike, I'll tell you this, if you look at all the bikes like that are available every year, there's probably, I don't know how many bikes are total available. Obviously there's a lot, right? Because even just in China alone, there's like thousands of models. But let's say from Japan, which is most good bikes come from Japan, I would say there's probably 2 or 3 models I approve of every year, and maybe less. Sometimes there's not even any, but sometimes there's 1, and sometimes there's 3 that I say, and I say, hey, that's a hell of a bike. That's a good bike. That's an awesome bike. Like that is a kind of a piece of art. I love it. Right? Very rare, very rare. It's like a '64 Mustang or something like that. Right? Not easy to find. And I'm not criticizing the bike makers, because it's just, fuck, life is difficult, right? You're trying to do something very difficult, right? You're trying to make a perfect machine, engineered, right? That does everything, right? And for so it's not easy. So be easy on them. They're doing their best. Eventually, they come out with something. It's like a song, right? Very few songs last the test of time. A bike's the same way, right? So either way, that's a type of bike. Okay, it stops super fast. It goes super fast. It corners super hard. The pegs are up high. You can really rail that thing through the corners, and the engine is super powerful, and it really allows you to do all the things you want to do: wheelies, backward wheelies, all kinds of stunts. You can smoke another bike, and you can really ride it to the max. It doesn't shake. It's like very sturdy, and just at the same time it's super light, right? And that's a type of bike, right? So that's basically, if you think of bikes, that's what a bike is. I would say number one, okay? And the number two type of bike, right? The second type. So that would be like a rice rocket, some kind of racer. That's that type of bike, right? Anytime you start sitting up straight or adding a bunch of crap on there, adding pipes, adding just crap, even paint. Like you don't even need paint. You really don't need much on a bike. It's like there's a very minimal things you need, and the less the better, right? Because that's that type of bike, right? There's another type of bike, and that is the kind of the hauler or the carrier, right? It's kind of like you have a sports car and then you have a truck, right? The truck is also useful, right? Because the truck can carry things. It can carry things. It's the engine is got better torque. It's very comfortable to ride in, and you can put a lot of shit inside of it, and it gets good gas mileage for the weight and for what it can do, right? So in that sense, that's also a very Ronin Man type of machine. It's like a really well-designed truck. So in the bike world, the truck is a scooter, okay? And what's smart about a scooter is why I love scooters. I love scooters. Although I would have shoot myself a couple of years ago if I'd heard myself saying this when I was racing, but actually, it totally makes total sense. There's just two types of bikes. There's racers that make sense, bikes that make sense. And the other one is the truck type, which is a scooter. Right? So why is a scooter great? A scooter's great. It's fucking great, you guys. It's so fucking great. Of course, they look dorky, right? Most scooters they're getting cooler, actually. They're getting cooler as time goes by, as technology improves. Probably when they go to electric, scooters are going to be the future. I predict scooters are going to eventually take over. But they're kind of like transformers, okay? So what is a scooter? A scooter's got a lot of space underneath the seat. So you pick up the seat on, say, a 250 scooter, like a Honda, a Yamaha, whatever. You look under the seat, there's a ton of space. You can put two full-face helmets. You can put a ton of shit in there. You can put your laptop. You can charge your laptop. There's like a USB plug. You can charge your laptop inside the bike. The bike is waterproof, so all the containers are perfectly waterproof. And actually, it's funny because when I have a ton of money with me and I'm going somewhere, I like to take a scooter because nobody ever thinks that some guy's got a shit ton of money in a scooter. You put it under the seat and you can leave the thing. You can literally go to the beach for 2 weeks, have it sitting there with however how much money you got in there, and no one ever is going to think, oh, that guy's got a computer and a bunch of cash in that bike, right? Whereas like anywhere else, it's possible somebody's going to rob you. But it's so funny. Nobody ever thinks a scooter's got money in it. I've used it to haul for my business a ton of money from place to place. And it's just like you just get your bag, and nobody ever suspects you're carrying tons and tons of cash. So if you do have to carry cash for whatever reason, for your business or whatever, I tell you, man, scooter is awesome. Nobody will ever suspect it, especially if you're not dressed really nice. It's dressed normal, and you got a bag underneath the seat. No one thinks a guy with scooter's got money, and so it's a great cover if you're doing something, especially whatever. You don't want people to know you have money, right? So, okay. So the scooter's got a lot of space, which is totally awesome. It's got functionality because you can charge your phone and all that, right? It's so easy. You can have stuff, and also a scooter. It's a completely different type of design, right? Of course, the physics still apply. So you want to have it, as light as possible, as much power as possible. But the way the scooter's designed is more like a truck. It's completely different. So the scooter, although it can't quite do what the racing bike can do. Although you look at the T-Max 530 Yamaha, that thing is getting up there. It's getting pretty darn good. Of course, are sacrificing gas mileage. But the scooter has, what's cool about it is it's heavy. Okay, the scooter is quite heavy, really heavy. But it's balanced so well. The weight is balanced. If you get on a scooter, feel it in your hands. Like go to a bike shop or whatever and then stand on it. And then then move it to each side and then take it out for a ride, go around the corner, and you'll feel that it's heavy. But it's very doable heavy. Like it's weird. It's like this heavy thing, and you go around the corner. Of course, if you're really going hard and it's snowing or whatever, you're going to go down on a scooter, which I've gone down many times. But the thing is, it actually is quite easy to take to a slide. Scooters have great balance. Like I said, they're heavy, but they have great balance. So if you're able to ride that slide, a scooter, you don't have to go down that much. If you ever do go down on a scooter, what's great about that is that your leg is protected by the fairing. So you just hold your legs inside. I've taken some bad spills when I take a spill on a racing bike, your leg is the first thing on the side that just gets grounded up like hamburger right. On a scooter, I've got unscathed out of almost every single crash. Yeah, every crash. I've never been even slightly injured on a scooter. And so, yeah, they're really, really great for falling down. That's for sure. All that extra stuff actually has some meaning when you fall down, right? So they have always really nice lights and all that stuff, and they have a lot of space. They also have, which is great, they have a big handle behind the seat. So when you got your girl on the back, you got a girl in the back. She is very comfortable on scooters because it's like a sofa. I call the 250s. I call them basically sofas on wheels because that's what they are. They have a lot of they're very comfortable. Right? They're so comfortable. Like they really are. The seat is soft. It's comfortable. It's good. If you sit on like a hard seat as a guy, have you read the studies about like bicycle seats? Dude, seats are bad for the wood. That's all I can say. If you have any kind of hard seat that touches the muscle between your ass and your balls, I forget what that's called, but if you have any pressure on that area, you have problems getting a hard on. It's a serious thing. It's not like sperm count or some bullshit like that. We're talking about getting a hard on. Right? This is an important thing. So don't ever put pressure, okay, undue pressure on the place between your balls and your ass. It's just fucking stupid. When I see these guys going by on these racing bikes, I think you guys, they're like, seriously, like, do you even read? Like, seriously, man, do you want to fucking have a hard on when you're 60 or what? You know what I mean? Like, what the fuck is wrong with you? Like, a dude who would do something that's bad for getting a hard on, I just don't even understand that. Like, that's ridiculous. It's a key thing for guys. Like, it's a part of your self-esteem. It's part of your satisfaction, enjoyment of life, and it's giving it to other people and girls, and they like it, and it's just fucking stupid. Like, don't do things like that, okay? Just don't do it, right? And but when you're a scooter, it's completely different. The way you sit on it is quite comfortable, and it doesn't put any undue pressure. You can feel most of the pressure is out on the side towards your legs and then your butt, so it's just totally fine. You can sit on these things for hours. Like, you can drive a scooter like easily, like between something like LA and San Francisco, it's 6 hours or 7 hours. Dude, on a scooter, I did it recently. It was great. I went down the coast of California. I started from Santa Cruz and came down to LA. I had to do a speech there. And then I went down to down south San Diego. And it was all in one day. It was a great day, man. I went along the coast. A lot of people think a scooter you couldn't ride on the coast, like with the curves and stuff. Oh, dude, because I had a bunch of stuff with me. I had to take a bunch of stuff with me. So I had it all strapped on my bike, and it was great. I was able to take all my stuff from north to Southern California, and it was easy. It was comfortable. I don't know what it cost me. It cost me nothing. I mean, because the scooters get great gas mileage. But the girls love to be on the back of scooters. So they're actually the opposite of what people think. Like, that you want a girl wants to ride on like some hot bike or something like that. I've had a lot of hot bikes, and a lot of friends with Harleys and everything, and scooters. Scooter, believe me, girls love to be on the back of a scooter, no matter what they say. They get so comfortable because girls don't ride motorcycles much, right? Most girls don't ride motorcycles, and when they get on the back of one, they feel great, just like we do. They're just like, this is awesome. They feel the wind in their face and the freedom, and it's just a fucking great feeling, right? So the girls love it. So I found girls on the back of scooters is the best because they got that big handle, so when you're riding on like a long distance, they can hold on to that. Of course, they want to hold on to you anytime you're going short distance, but they got the option, right? And also, last thing about scooters is so cool is the one thing Harley has right. There's only one thing I can think of because they're just dangerous, heavy, 1970s technology pieces of shit like a rock on wheels. It's a death trap because they can't stop and they're slow and they're expensive. I mean, because there's all this shit on them, right? There's all this extra shit all over the place. So, but the one thing they got is that they have a different sitting style than most bikes. So with a Rice Rocket, you're leaning forward, right? With scooter, you're sitting up straight, and it's quite comfortable to sit up straight like that with your feet, because your feet aren't on a peg, right? They're on like a board, so they're flat. So you don't have to have them in any particular place. You can move your feet around a lot on a scooter, right? That's comfortable, man. That's comfortable, man. That's Ronin, man. You don't care what people think. Who cares what people think? What people think doesn't even fucking matter, even one single bit. And I can tell you that from having different bikes and trying every kind of bike since I was 14. And I had a bike when I was 14. I put 100,000 miles on it in high school because it was a 70 cc. It was basically a scooter. Yeah, it was basically it was a CT70. That's what it was. Essentially a scooter. It did have gears, it had 3 gears, but automatic transmission and everything, or automatic clutch. But the scooter doesn't have any gears. It's so easy to ride. You can just sit there and relax, and you can just cruise, think about whatever you're going to think about. If you want to sneak some music in there, you can listen to audiobooks or whatever. It's illegal in most countries, but I usually do it anyway. Be careful, though, if you do put something in your ears. You don't want something big, because if you crash, you need the smallest possible headphones, because if you smash your head against a wall or something, and that thing's going to go directly in your ear, it's going to kill you, or going to really damage your ears. So be careful. You can break the law. I don't really give a fuck about the law, but I do care about my ears. So you got to make sure, like, you're a logical person, right? You're rational, right? You're doing things that are good for you. Ronin Man is not stupid, right? Ronin Man is not out there destroying his life. You know what I mean? Like, Ronin Man is thinking of a balance of things, right? And of course, I'm not encouraging everybody to break the law. It's probably some lawyer or something says I have to say that or whatever. But everybody makes their own decisions. For me, it's just depends on the time. Right? Usually, whatever. So okay, so back to the scooter is what was I saying about it? Oh fuck, I lost my train of thought on that. Either way, a scooter is a fantastic machine and very practical machine. So if you want to try riding a motorcycle for the first time, I have a lot of friends who bought motorcycles when they're older, or even in high school, and they thought that they were just going to go ride them all over the place. And several of them died. I got one friend who's crippled from a motorcycle. And when you read about motorcycles and you read about danger, basically what you're talking about is not really the danger of the motorcycle. It's basically the guy doesn't know how to ride yet. Okay, you have to learn how to ride. You have to learn how to defensive driving. Look up defensive driving. It's really important with motorcycles. You have to know that you can predict. You can predict where. It's not about breaking the law, because when you're racing, like I used to race street race, so I'd be driving, like say between cars and traffic, I'd say 140, 50 miles an hour, racing another guy, right? Obviously not so safe, right? But when you're doing that, you're moving that fast, and you only have like 2 feet, 2.5 feet between the cars. Sometimes you break a few mirrors off here and there, but basically, like, you have to predict way, way in advance what people are going to do. Otherwise, you're going to be dead. Okay, I'm good at it. Otherwise, I wouldn't even be here, right? So you have to be able to predict, and that's defensive driving. You're thinking, what could the cars possibly do, and what is the most odds they won't do, and that's what the lane I'm going to go into, right? And then, of course, you have to look at other things like what's on this. If you're on the side of the road, often there's debris, and that's going to fuck you up. So you have to think about all that stuff. But think about that stuff. So don't worry. I'm not so worried about the laws. I'm much more worried about what makes sense, when it comes to motorcycles, right? So that's like basically like Ronin Man, like logic here, right? Is you're taking care of yourself, and obviously I do care what the law is in the sense of whatever country I'm in. Is that I don't want to have a bunch of legal trouble, right? So I'm going to avoid getting in trouble. So whether that's avoiding getting caught, outrunning the cops, or it's playing along with the game so that I don't have any trouble. Right? So it's a mixed bag for me. Depends on my mood, right? But I've had a great time riding bikes. I think bikes are absolutely fantastic. But the idea that motorcycles are freedom, and like you get this piece of shit big heavy bike when you're older, and then you just go riding and like you're free, dude, don't do that. Don't do that. Scooters are much, much safer if you're not a good rider. They have a lot of protection on them. On the side, you get a full face helmet. You ride it, and you learn how to really ride that thing, right? And one thing, I don't know if you guys are really going to take this seriously, but if you do want to learn to ride, you need to learn to crash. So when you take a course, like a racing course, like in Japan, you go to what's the name of that speedway? It's out in MGTOW. I can't remember the name of it. But either way, you take a course in the weekend. You can take a course about $3,000. I don't know what it is now, but what they'll do is they'll teach you how to crash a bike at about, I don't know what speed it is. It's 100 miles an hour or something like that, 120. And they'll teach you how to fall off the bike, how to come off the bike safely, right? You have to learn. You can't wait till the first time that you crash and then you learn how to fall. You got to learn how to fall from the beginning. So practice falling. Practice coming off a bike. Practice rolling off a bike. Like on a scooter, like the basic rule with bikes is never let go of the handlebars. Do not let go of the handlebars. You want to hold those fuckers as tight as you can. Because the bike, let's say you're sliding forward, and you have the bike. The bike is then a barrier between you and a wall, you and a van, you and something else, right? So if you hold on to the handlebars, that bike will protect you. You'll bounce off stuff, no problem. You get up with no injuries, right? I've walked away from so many accidents, and every time it was because I knew how to use the bike to protect me, right? There's only one rare situation where you want to abandon the bike, and that is if you're riding straight and somebody turns in front of you, and basically you have no time to react and you hit it. You hit the car that's turning in front of you. In that case, you have to be ready for this. You let go of the handlebars and jump as high as you can. Like literally, as you're hitting the bike, as you're hitting the car. Say you're going like 60, 70, 80, whatever miles an hour. As soon as you hit that, you go into the car, you jump in the air, and what will happen is you'll go straight over the car, van, truck, whatever it is, and you will, one cool thing, if you ever do that, one cool thing I did once is like, as I crashed into this car high speed, I was very peaceful actually. I was like, okay, this is it. This is going to crash. So what am I going to do? I'm going to jump. So I jumped. That's how I came up with this strategy. So I jumped in the air. My bike hit the van, and I remember listening to the bike crashing into the van. Like it was weird. It was like the time stopped or something, and it was like a really interesting sound, of the bike. The guy had illegally, like real crazy driver turned in front of me, and I didn't have any chance to get out of his way. So I abandoned the bike. I jumped, and the bike just crashed into the van. I heard all the things breaking and stuff, and it was a really cool sound actually. And I jumped, and then I just slid because luckily I didn't hit anything on the other side. I just slid down the road, and I was totally fine. I just had to get a new bike. So, those are the things. One, hold on the handlebars. Two, in the extreme case where that bike, where you're hitting something solid, right on, you don't want to go into it yourself. Jump over, right? But most other cases, be smart. Hold onto the bike. Don't let it go, and that will protect you. Even the handlebars protect you because you're holding on, and then they're protecting your hands, right? Instead of sliding along, you want to slide as little as possible, right? So that's bikes, man. Don't let these fucking marketers tell you what a man is, or tell you what you're supposed to do. And if you don't have time to ride every single bike and, be a bike expert, it's so easy to be fooled, right? That's why I'm making this, because I think it's important, actually. It's important that you know what is a bike from somebody who's ridden a hell of a lot of bikes and what to avoid. So if you're a new rider, or if you're just an older guy who just wants to cruise around, get yourself a scooter. And one last thing about scooters, I forgot what I was going to say, is when you, there's a thing on, let's say a 250 Japanese scooter, there's a thing that you can put your feet like in a Harley position. If you look, you got your feet on the floorboard, and there's also a thing in front that's like on a 45-degree angle. And you put your feet on that, and you lean back, and it's just the same feeling as a Harley. Like scooters are just as cool. I swear to God, you got everything. You got the good gas mileage, you have the good brakes, you have the balance, you have all the storage, like waterproof storage, safe storage. You have a bike that's, it's high tech. Scooters are full of high technology, actually. They might look a little dorky, but those things are actually the coolest. As far as technology, materials and stuff, they're putting all kinds of shit into bikes. Bikes basically stay the same. If you look at Harley, it's the same shit you saw in the 60s, right? Scooters are always improving. They're always, because they don't have any rules that you have to stay the same. There's no rules, right? There's no we have to do the old school way. So no, it's more like, what can we do this year to get a little more power, a little more brake, a little more fuel efficiency, a little bit bigger storage, a little bit better, speedometer and all that. And all that stuff, and that's what they're trying to figure out every year. And there's no rules, because scooters are just like Play-Doh or something. They're like the Transformer. They just curve, and you can mold them into any shape you want. And every year they try to mold them a little tighter, a little lighter, a little better, a little more storage, and that's all cool. And you can also use them as a Harley, right? You lean back. They're your Harley, man. And also scooters are quiet, because I don't know. I got to go back on this one, man. This is turning into a long episode. I tell you, this is killer shit, I personally think. And so, okay, so everybody thinks you need a loud motorcycle to be a man. Okay, this is the kind of concept. This loud is like a man, and there's this traditional sound, and you need that sound, right? Dude, this is such bullshit. Okay, look, you need your ears, okay? You want to have ears. If you have a loud motorcycle, okay, you're going to damage your hearing. because already you have wind noise, which is really loud. Actually, you should never let your dog stick his head out the window very long, because the dogs love putting their head out the window. But what happens is they go deaf because the wind blows so hard on their ears that so you can let him sit his head out the window for a little bit, but then pull him back in, close the window, because otherwise he'll just stick his head out the window for 4 hours while you're driving, and your dog will be deaf, right? So you don't want that, and you don't want it on yourself. So don't do things that are super noisy in your daily life that you don't even think about, like as a habit. And then, it's one thing to go to a concert once in a while, right? Or to do something once in a while and hear some loud noises. Hey, that's fine. It's totally different if this is like your life. Every day you get up and you get on the bike, you start the engine, it's super loud, or you ride without a helmet and a loud engine. I rode without a helmet, in one location I lived for 5 years, and it was great, but I wouldn't do it again just because of the noise. I'm not worried about the fucking crashing that much. I know how to fall. I've had a lot of accidents with no helmet, and believe me, I'm fucking fine. And so these pricks who tell you how to live, dude, don't fucking listen to them. And again, I'm not saying I'm not anti-helmets, because actually these days, I kind of like full-face helmets, actually. I had to wear them in Tokyo for many years, so I got used to them. And now I kind of like them because they protect your hearing a lot, right? And also they're nice in when it's raining. It's perfect thing to have on when it rains. And then the other thing I kind of like about helmets is kind of cool is in the winter when you're riding, like it's like 0 degrees, right? And you're out riding, and you got your down jacket on, you got your whatever you got on, you got all this like extra clothes on, right? And you're riding around, you're warm. The full face helmet is warm as hell, man. In the summer, it's actually not as hot as you think. In the summer, I've been in blazing 43-degree heat with a full face helmet. I was surprised that it wasn't that bad. But in the winter, if you leave the windshield thing closed, it really keeps you warm. And so like I said, I'd be riding for like several hours. I want to take a break. I'd go lay on the beach or go lay in a park or whatever. And I would leave my helmet on because the helmet's so warm in the winter that no matter how cold it is, as long as you got proper gear on, I'm not talking about things the marketers sell you. I'm just saying things that keep you warm and protect you, whatever the hell that is, right? And you got the helmet on. You can sit in the park for quite a long time, just relax. It's very comfortable because you never get cold with the helmet on. So it's the warmest. It's like those fucking Russian hats, those bear hats. I don't know what they're made out of, but I bought one when I was in Moscow once. But they're like, I think the one I bought was like a rabbit or some shit. But the real ones are probably some kind of wolf or something. But those things, they go over your ears and down your neck. They're super warm, and they're nice. The helmets, full-face helmets, are just like that. Exact same thing. That's my take. So they're very useful for many things. Protect your ears from the noise, protect you from the sun, so you don't get a sunburn on the back of your neck if you drive in the summer a lot. And protect your face from a sunburn too. I've ridden for a long time in the sun without even having sunscreen on because I'll have a little like a sun visor and a little bit of sun like Ray-Bans basically, sunglasses, but that's the front windshield. And I just drive in the summer, and I don't get any sun on my face, neck, cover myself up. I'm totally fine, right? So a full-face helmet and a scooter is an awesome thing for most people. And learn how to crash, learn how to ride, learn how to make your own decisions. Learn how to fucking navigate this world in the smartest way that you possibly can, in ways and things that you like to do, not what other people like to do, and not what other people tell you to do, right? And then if you're more like frisky and you really want to learn how to ride a bike, I just say about racing bikes and fast bikes in general is there's only 1 or 2 cool bikes, as I said in the beginning, every year. So this year, I was thinking it was the R6, but I don't know what it is this year. I'm not quite sure. It's not the R6. I thought it was. It's pretty goddamn good. Pretty nice bike, the Yamaha R6. But I'll put a comment here below if I ever find a good bike this year. But most years, like I say, there's not one bike that's so perfect that I would recommend it. I'm talking a very, very high standard for bikes. You know what I mean? Because there's such a big difference. It's like music, right? It's like there's so much shit out there, like so much crap, right? It's like, you want to make sure you get something that just nails it, right? Because it's part of your body. You drive it every day. The bike is like part of my body when I ride it. I literally feel like it's part of my body. It's an extension of my body. When I'm turning, when I'm sliding, when I'm braking, I can feel everything on the bike, and I'm using it like part of my body, right? So that's what I would say about racing bikes is you want to learn how to crash so that you can so that you're not injured when you crash. Because a lot of people think that when you crash, let's say you crash at say 80 miles an hour, and they think that you're going to die, right? Something like that. If you learn how to crash, if you learn how to come off the bike, okay, the key thing is you have to relax. When you go off the bike, when I crash, I go into this really weird mode, and you have to learn it young, I think. If you're young, and like I learned to ride when I was 14. I got my first bike. I think I was 13 actually. I got my first bike. It was my first bike was a moped actually, but it got stolen after a couple weeks because I didn't lock it up and left it at school, and somebody stole it. But you got to learn as fast as you can. If you skateboard or ride bicycles, and you know that when you crash, when I fall out, okay, here's how you crash. Okay, when you realize you're going to go off the bike, you go into this almost dreamlike state where it's just like the world is like slowed down, and you're totally like you're like a sponge or an octopus. You're just like flying through the air, totally relaxed. You are looking ahead because maybe you can use your hands to move a pole out of the way or something like as you go by it and just barely miss it with your hands. But it's a very relaxed kind of movement. You're watching where you're flying, but at the same time you're not thinking about it. And then you hit something and you're like you bounce around it and off it, and then when you get off, you're going to be fine. So I've had so many accidents. I've seen other people have the same accident and they've been killed. So learning how to become an octopus, a jellyfish, in any kind of situation when you crash is really Ronin, man, because you need to protect yourself. Okay, you need to fucking survive so you can have a killer life, because you're going to be doing fun stuff, right? You're going to be having a good time. You're going to be doing all kinds of stuff that probably isn't that safe by society's standards. But how you protect yourself is not by some fucking laws. It's not by some bullshit the marketers tell you need to buy. It's by the basics, okay? And if you know how to relax, if you know how to go into jellyfish mode, you can survive so many things. You know, I'm not going to tell you all the things I survived, but if anybody's listening and you know how to fall, like the stuntman, okay, in Hollywood, whatever the training they go through, I would love to see what they go through. Because I have my own kind of training, but I'd love to hear from a professional how they fall off things, how they land on things. In fact, now that I think about it, I'm actually going to Google it and see if I can find training for stuntman, because that's what you want. You want basically training for stuntman for your life, so that when you're in a situation like your car is crashing, your bike's crashing, somebody's hitting you, you're falling off a cliff, you know, you're falling into a pool, there's no water. You have to learn to fall. You have to learn to relax. You have to learn to crash. And if you learn that skill, you can live to old age. And fuck everybody who says the opposite. It's not about the other things. It's about in that crucial moment, because every time you crash, here's the thing, you guys. It's not like it's a zero-sum game. Every time you crash, you learn a ton of shit, okay? You learn what most people never learn because they die or they get so injured they can't drive anymore or they can't do whatever it is anymore. Every time you crash, you learn, okay? So I think there's a quote. It's like out of the something of excess comes the palace of wisdom. And it's like out of the, I don't know what the word, I can't remember the exact quote, but it's basically that's what it is. By all these crazy things that you do and all the fun fucking things you do in your life that other people don't do, or if they do, they go and die right away, right? You have to go do these things and live, right? That's the way you get experience. That's the way you become a badass and have a great life is by doing that. So by learning the things that you need to know, right? You don't need to know so much to wear a helmet. You don't need to know to wear. I've never worn leathers in my life. I've never done a lot of. I don't like to buy a uniform. Like I like to think of my own thing that protects me in the way that I want to be protected, in the way I want to. You know what I mean? Like I'm just thinking of practical stuff. I'm always putting things together that make sense to me and maybe don't make sense to anybody else, right? And so that's the way I think. That's the way I think about bikes. That's the way I think about surviving on bikes. You learn to survive by learning to come off the bike and learning to crash and learning to relax your body into almost like a jellyfish heroin type of feeling, you know? I've never done any heroin, but I've seen people like nod off and stuff, and I think that's the mode, man. That's the mode. They're totally, totally relaxed, right? That's the kind of mode. It's like you're just going into like total bliss, right? and then you're flying to the air and you're hitting like a concrete pylon, and then you're bouncing off a, I went off a car. I hit a one time a police car actually illegally turned in front of me, which was so outrageous, and I crashed into him and I flew so far. Like I was going so fast, I hit a stop sign. I don't know if it was a stop sign. It was like a yield sign. What it was like a metal pole, and I hit right on my nuts on the tank as I went, and then I hit the pole and hit my nuts again, and I ended up having surgery on my nuts because of that. But the rest of my body was totally fine. You can't relax certain parts of your body. You can't. There's just certain things that, you know what I mean. You do your best to relax, and I survived that thing. And it was a pretty bad accident. It was I was going very fast. I was going at least 80, and smashed full on into the police car, and then flew over another, I don't know how many feet, but I would say probably a good 15 to 20 feet into a police car, into a sign, a metal pole, right? And then slid down to the ground. Oh, it was a pretty shook me up a little bit. I was pretty shooken up for like that day and maybe the next day. But I was able to survive, and I had a little surgery. It was no big deal. Everything was fine, and I learned something. Right? I learned that what I learned from that crash, because every crash you learn something really important, because it's you, right? You're not just reading some book. It's your fucking life, right? So you learn it fast, and you learn it deep. What happened to me on that one, what I learned was, I was going illegally on the wrong side of the road, directly into traffic, but there was nobody there, right? So, but it was a curvy road, right? And I was going pretty fast. The other cars were completely stopped going my direction. So I went to the other side, and when the police car illegally, because he was trying to miss the traffic too, he pulled in the other lane, and he was going forward, and I couldn't figure out what he was going to do. I couldn't figure out where he was going. I couldn't see, because a police car is never going to go run into another car, right? So I knew he was going to do something. He was going to pull back into traffic, or he was going to suddenly turn, but I couldn't see anywhere he could turn. There was like a brick wall along the side of the road, like a brick wall right along the street. So I couldn't, and it was just like this, like you can see brick all the way down, right? So I couldn't see that he could turn there. But what happened was it was a visual illusion, because actually, although it's brick, and there was a small road, and then it was brick. So he was turning down that small road. So he was going to turn illegally into traffic for like 100 meters, and then he was going to turn into that small road, right? And I thought he was going to go back into traffic because I couldn't see that road. So I realized that there's sometimes when you're driving fast and you're on a curvy road and you have to make a quick decision, I thought, well, if he goes back into traffic and I go between him, he's going to squeeze me between the car and I'll be totally fucked, right? Because that's a bad accident. Between two cars at high speed, that's a bad accident, right? So I'm like, that's not going to be a good one. So I thought, well, if I go to the other side, I can hit the wall. It's much better than hitting a car for me. I'd much rather hit a concrete wall or a brick wall than a car, because a car's got all this stuff sticking out of it. It's like a wall I can predict, but it's flat, right? I know I'm going to hit it. I'm going to hit it a certain way. I'm going to try to protect my head, and I'm just going to bounce off it, right? A car is much more unpredictable, with the things sticking out of it. The bumper is hard, the other part's soft, the glass is somewhat soft. When you're going that speed, you're going to smash into it. It's going to be fine, but there's like pylons that are going to really get you. I'd much rather hit. So that's my experience. So what I learned from that is that in that moment, there might be an option that you don't know. So consider that. And I got to consider that there could be a visual illusion going on. It sounds like a very small, slight thing that won't be helpful, but I wouldn't be surprised if it was at some time in my life. When the shit's really going down in high speed motion, I have 100th of a second to make a decision next time, or whatever it is. I probably had half a second, or like at least half a second on that time. But next time, I'm gonna have another option in my mind. I really believe this. I really believe that every time you crash, you learn something very important. Because a crash is not that common, especially if you're a good rider like I am. You don't crash that much, so when you do, it's pretty clear the lessons you learn every time. You learn something about the physics of the bike. You learn something about the physics of the road. Something about the side of the road, and something about cars. Something about traction, something about water, something about metal, something about possible objects, bicycles, how animals act, like, dogs and cats come out. You learn something every time that dogs could be in this certain situation. There could be a cat there. There could be something hiding there. A kid could run out over there. So, like that traffic there, they tend to, whenever they get really frustrated, they do this, even though it's illegal. All that stuff's going on in my mind, defensive driving I was talking about. And that's what That's all the things I think about when I drive, especially when I'm driving at super high speeds and I have to make these decisions. So I don't know if it's going to help. I don't know if you're going to ever need to do that, but this gives you idea, and this is also why a racing bike is exactly what you need if you're going to drive fast, because it's every extra pound means the traction's not as good, the stopping's not as good, cornering's not as good. You can't get out of people's way because you have that extra pound. That's why you want to have it. The bike has to be like a fucking fish, right? It's got to be designed by almost evolution to be perfect, a perfect specimen that you're riding to the absolute max, and your reactions and your skill level at crashing, at moving, at driving are all at top-notch, high definition, right? You're at high def here, you know. You're not on slouching Starbucks mode. You're on high definition, right? And then you want your bike to be exactly the same. And then the other times, like I said, you have a truck, and that's your scooter. It's perfect. You can load so much shit on a scooter. I've gone to Costco and I've got bags of stuff, and I tie it on the handle behind me. You know, where I was telling you about the girls hold on to it, it's a big handle. I tied like 6, 7, 8 bags on that thing, and then had bags tied on top of the seat behind me, and then had a backpack, and I was able to take, like, say, $300 or $400 worth of crap from Costco home on my scooter. I used to do that all the time because I missed the traffic, right? So it can be actually super. I often take my scooter when I'm going shopping because it saves me from taking the car. When I take the car, then I get in traffic, and the scooter can always go between the cars and miss all the traffic, right? Which is awesome, right? So either way, there's Ronin Man on motorcycles, and I hope it's been useful. Even if you don't ride a motorcycle, you never will. It's the thinking. It's the fucking thinking, right? And every time when you take this thinking into another field, you'll see how it applies, this kind of thinking, right? That I still need to perfect myself and improve myself, right? There's never end to improving. Human beings are very intelligent creatures, and we learn and we improve every single day. What I know now is very different and very much better than I knew 10 years ago, or 20 years ago, or 30 years ago. Always improving, right? There might be a time when I go back and listen to these podcasts 20 years from now and think, oh man, I didn't know anything, right? You're always learning. You're always improving, right? So I appreciate any comments. Dude, you guys are awesome. I'm serious. The comments on here, it's like unbelievable. It like makes my day. And that's what gets me motivated to go and put some of the stuff down, record it, So hope you enjoyed it. Ronin Man signing off. Going to jump in the pool. Hope you have a good one.